Well, hello everyone, and welcome back. Say, it's so good to see you here today. Today we're going to talk about my favorite progressive rock albums, part 2. And I think I've got another 4 stacks up on the wall for progressive music. And I've got another couple really big stacks, I don't know how many videos, of new records that I bought in the last while. That's turned out to be pretty popular. And one of the records that I talked about on that last video was Kika Guru Mojo. And you probably remember that. Now, one of my subscribers, Analog33, he said, "Man, thanks so much for introducing that. I went out and bought all 5 of their records. I love them so much." So that was pretty good. And then I want to do another shout out to Barry Strong out there in one of my favorite subscribers. I talked to him here recently. He said, "You know what, Ron? When you showed that Budos band record, I only listened to about half of one side, and I bought all 7 of their records. I went out and bought all 7. So I said, "Well, Barry, you know what I need to do?" I went out and I bought 2 more of them. I got 2 more of them. And I also bought the new Jethro Tull LP. So that means I bought the last 3 Jethro Tull records, and I need to do a video on that too, don't I? And I do, so I will. So now we're getting down to Dragonfly. This is the first progressive rock record I want to talk about today. This is, I think, from '74. This is a progressive rock band out of Zurich, Switzerland. Yeah, how many Switzerland bands you got out there? There's not a lot of them. And I'm going to show the record label for Dave, because you don't see this record label every day, out of Switzerland. And you can even say where it says Susa on there. High Fly Records, Dragonfly. So this is a band, and I just listened to it again before I started the video, and really good progressive rock, a lot of piano, a lot of really good guitar on here. Also, a lot of singing, and the band favors, yes, they do. There's a lot of high, fast bass parts in it, a lot of faster melodies in it, and the singing is really good. When you hear them and they're doing their harmonizing and stuff, you're going, kind of sounds like Yes a little bit. Now, they're the Swiss form of Yes, right? The UK form is much better, but I wanted to talk about Dragonfly, a good record. Now here's a record called Panta Rei, and this record, I give it the award for the worst cover of all time. For me, anyway. I'm just not a big fan of this cover. But this is some Swedish prog from '73. And this has a lot of, I guess you would call it the European, kind of the Scandinavian prog cues in it. And it's really good, and the guitar player on here is phenomenal. When he gets it, they do a really long, The Night is the name of the song on side 2. It's a 13-minute and 45-second song. Really long, extended guitar solo on that, and it is phenomenal. The guy can really play the guitar, and that's why I've got the record, because that guy's so good. And now we've got a band that puts the rock in progressive rock, Rush. And I'm going to just talk about a couple records that I have of Rush. This is Moving Pictures, probably their best known record, probably my favorite record. And this is the Canadian OG. And you get one of those really thick cardboardy inner sleeves with the lyrics on the back. And then, of course, the label is on Anthem. I did buy, which I do have one behind me here, a reissue on the Direct Metal Master, and I compared it to this record, and I thought this record was just, that much better. But that Direct Metal Master now, when they cut that, they don't use a lacquer for their mastering. They cut a copper disc instead. So now it's right to the metal, and then they can just plate that metal instead of the softer lacquer. And it does have some good attributes. One of them is it really captures a lot more of that bass energy, where you get a lot more hit, a lot more of that impact on the bass drums. And so I found that Metal Master had more of that, but overall I thought this had a little bit better fidelity. Not a lot. But I do have one I just bought not that long ago. This is a record that was made at Quality Records on 200 gram vinyl. This was the first issue that came on the 200 gram. Chad's not making 200 gram records anymore. He's just doing everything at 180 grams. So this being the first edition, it's on the 200 gram. Comes on a nice gatefold. I don't know if the label's anything special. Not really. I used to have this record. It came out in Canada on red vinyl, but the sound was not that great on that record. So I sold it on red vinyl. Of course, it's a collector's item, right? And I got this one on the nice gatefold. Beautiful, beautiful record. Sounds really, really good. And it's got a lot of hits on here, but I really like side 2, which features, hemispheres on it. Really like that record. And like I said, it is Direct Metal Mastered and made at Quality Record Presses. Now I've got a couple more bands here we want to talk about. There's only like 3 bands left, but they're pretty important. This is a band called Triumvirat, and this is Mediterranean Tales. This is like their first album from '72. Really good. This is a German record on the Harvest label. Lots of piano, really good musicianship, good singing, just a really good progressive rock. A lot of with piano based on this record, and some guitar too. Some really good guitar on here. And then we get into Illusions on a Double Dimple. Illusions on a Double Dimple, Triumvirat. And this again is on the Harvest label. But it is, actually, it's an EMI out of Japan. And it's a white label promo. And you can see on the top, it's got those Chinese characters right on the top of the label. That means promo in Japanese. So there's a lot of Japanese records that will have the same label on them as a regular record, that it won't be a white label. This is an older record, that's why it's a white label, but if you see those symbols on it, that's a promo. And this is one of my favorite progressive rock records. Standout, fantastic musicianship on here, really good guitars, really good keyboards. And that's why I went out and I got the first edition Japanese record, so I could get that little extra fidelity, because I used to have a Canadian press. And I bought it in '74 when the record came out. And I actually, at the same time, I was living in Winnipeg at the time, and I went down to Mother's Records, and I bought both these records at the same time. I bought the Camel, and they both came out. I was in the bin at the same time, and I bought both these records. And I've come to love both of them. This one is a standout. This is a masterpiece right here. This Camel Mirage. And one of the things that is featured on Camel, the keyboard player plays the Hammond organ. Now, if you're familiar with the Hammond organ, a lot of the Hammond organs have what you call, on the top of it, it's a rotating speaker. And that's called the Leslie speaker because the guy Leslie invented it. And the top is a rotating horn. There's also a lower bass speaker that rotates in the bottom, which you can't really see it. And now on those organs, they have a switch. And you can switch between low and high, the frequencies, and that determines, and it will be marked on there. It will be called either the choral. The choral is for the low frequency, and the tremolo is actually, the choral is for the high frequency, and the tremolo is for the low frequency. And some of these Hammond organs, they even had a pedal where you could vary it, kind of like a wah-wah pedal, right? You could slow it up and speed it down. And this, when it rotates, it causes a Doppler effect, and that's what gives the Hammond organ that sound that it has, that distinctive sound. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then we have, I think this is her fourth record, Moon Madness by Camel. This is a nice Japanese press as well. This is not the first edition. This is a reissue that I was able to get. I think I did have a UK press of this. And it was the first edition because the first edition has some little, it's a kind of a textured cover. It's a little bit embossed. It has some texture to it. And I compared this to the UK press, and I thought this one was better. And then we have Camel's first record. Again, features really good. I mean, these people are, when I was listening to this, I said, this is a polished, these guys are pros. The way that they play, the musicianship on these records is first rate. The songwriting is so good. The singing is great. There's one song on that Camel record. The guy sounds like Jim Morrison, the way he's singing in that song. That's kind of what reminded me of years ago when I first heard it. It's so tasty music, so good. I hope if you don't know about Camel, I hope you want to listen to a couple of their records. Then we have another band that I really like. It's called Caravan. They also feature the Hammond organ as their keyboard. And these guys they're a little bit different. They're kind of what you call the Canterbury sound. And they kind of feature, it starts out, it kind of sounds like it's kind of poppy. It's really catchy. They're singing they're really uplifting, in an uplifting tone. They're singing a little song. And then they break out the Hammond organ and the guitars pop out and they get really heavy and proggy. And yeah, that's what they do. And I really like the music. A lot of people really love this record, In the Land of Gray and Pink. And this is a reissue that was done, I don't know, 10 years ago or so by Kelmont. And this record was made in Germany. And what I thought was really cool about this record, now, I don't have a lot of these kind of colored vinyl things, but when you get a record that's on pink and gray vinyl, and the name of the record is In the Land of Gray and Pink, and it's a German press. Yeah, I'm in on that. I used to have an OG UK press of this, but it was a little bit tired. It was a little bit on the worn side. The cover wasn't so nice, and so I bought this to because I like them in the shrink if I can get them in the shrink. And this again is a gatefold because it's a double record. It actually was a single, but they did it. They give it the double LP treatment. And boosted up made it a little bit hotter of a mix on here. Sounds phenomenal. And of course it bettered that UK press that I have. And then we have Caravan Waterloo Lily. This is a reissue on a Japanese reissue. You can tell because it's got rock best at 1,600 yen. And it's not a gatefold or anything. Let's see what label they got it on. They got it on the Durham label. Because they are a UK band. Triumvirat, they're from Germany. Okay? They have that kind of distinctive type of German progressive. just like the Swedes and the Finnish bands have their kind of, and the bands from Denmark that are doing progressive rock, they have their sound. But I think the British, I love so many of the British bands, and Caravan, they have their brand of their British prog, which I really, really like. And this Waterloo Lily, really, I listened to it again yesterday. Hadn't had it on the turntable for a while. And the songs were all so familiar, like I had just listened to it, last week, but it's been a while. That's how memorable the songs are. And I think one of their best records is, and their best title, one of the best titles of any rock record ever, progressive rock. It's Caravan, and you can see from the sticker, it's a promo, and the name of the record is, If I Could Do It All Over Again, I'd Do It All Over You. It's right on the bottom. It's hard to see. But like I said, this is a promo, so let's take it out and see what it looks like. And it's just on a regular Blue London label. You wouldn't know it was a promo unless you have the cover. And we also have the original inner sleeve. Pretty neat. All the records that were out at the time of putting the record out. Moody Blues, Flowers by the Stones, Procol Harum, first record. Of course, we got Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones and all that stuff. He was really popular at that time. I believe this is 74. Maybe it's on here. Oh, it's 1970. Decca Records. And this is, all these Caravan records are really good, but this one I think is, I don't know if it's their best, but it's right up there. This is a really, really good record. If you don't know about it, have a listen to that record. And then I have this one. This is Caravan's first record, and this is the reissue came out a couple years after. This is still a UK pressing on the MGM label, which is the original label that came out on. There's that MGM label. This record came out in '69, and I believe this is a '71 press. And they didn't make many, so it's still the same stampers on the same label, everything. It just had a different cover, which I thought was really unique because you don't see this cover very often. The sound on it is really good. I'm happy. Fantastic, and it's a fantastic record. And then the last progressive record on the list today is a guy called Arthur Brown. And this is his band, Kingdom Come. The record is called Journey. Now, if you remember Arthur Brown, he had that record back in '68, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. And he had that hit song, Fire. This is much better. I used to have that Crazy World of Arthur Brown record. I used to have it on a UK first edition Black Tracks label. I found one and I got it for a good deal. I think I bought it when I was in California. But the record just didn't, that one song was the great song on the record to me. And I didn't listen to it a lot, but I sold it so I could get some of those Kevin Gray reissues, get some money in the PayPal. But anyway, I've got this one. I've kept this one. This one, when you put it on side one, you start it out, it's kind of like a space rock record. It's not space rock, but there's a lot of, synthesizer, the spacey sounds are going on in the background. And then they get down and they get this, it's just a different, look at the cover, right? You know that's going to be a little bit different sounding record. And it's really progressive, a lot of good instruments on here. This is one of those records kind of hard to describe. It's not avant-garde, it's not space rock. It's just very progressive in a good way, in a very good way. So he's actually put out Kingdom Come now. They put out 3 records. This Journey is, I think, the 3rd one that they put out. This is the only one I have, but I would be interested to, I think I'm going to investigate some more of this stuff, because this is really very interesting music right here. I really, really enjoyed it when I listened to it yesterday. I thought, wow, that record is better than I thought it was. Because every time I do a purge, I go through and I listen to all these, why have I got this? And I go, oh yeah, that's why I got that. That's a good record. Okay. So that will conclude the video for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and watch my humble video. And I thank everybody for, on the way out now, when you're leaving, don't forget to hit that old like button on there. It means the world to me and the YouTube algorithm. Bye for now.